An ancient vase can hold more than just dust. It can hold a secret that shatters our understanding of the past. We are exploring 20 ancient artifacts discovered with secret compartments hiding political documents, a journey that will fundamentally change how you see history. By the end, you will understand the real, unfiltered motives of rulers who were too afraid to let their own records be seen. What explosive truth was locked inside a pharaoh's scepter? And why was a holy relic used to hide a plan for treason? These artifacts reveal that the most powerful people often built their legacies on lies they desperately needed to conceal. What does it say about us that the desire to hide the truth is as old as civilization itself? These secret spaces were born from a world without firewalls or encrypted files. To protect a fragile truth, you had to build a physical lie. The art of concealment, what experts call hollow work or double-walled construction, is an ancient craft that transforms everyday objects into vessels of deception. It required more than a clever carpenter. It demanded a master artisan who understood the soul of the material. They learned how to make wood whisper, to convince metal to keep a secret, to engineer a seam in ceramic so perfect it became invisible. This was not just carpentry or metallurgy, it was a form of high-stakes illusion. A renowned historian, Doctor, puts it best. She says a secret compartment was more than a hiding place. It was a statement of distrust, often within one's own court. Think about that for a moment. The very people you ruled with, dined with, and planned with could not be trusted with the words on a scroll. So you commissioned a beautiful box or an ornate chest or a ceremonial staff. Its public face showed power and stability. Its hidden heart held the fragile, often dangerous reality. In such a climate, a treaty could be written, then if discovered. A plan for succession could be secured away from jealous siblings. A record of a rival's betrayal could be preserved without sparking immediate war. This foundational human need to hide the truth in plain sight set the entire stage for history's most astonishing artifacts. And our journey begins with an object that was the ultimate symbol of authority, yet functioned as a vault for the state's darkest secrets. Gold and lapis lazuli gleamed under the desert sun, a symbol of divine power meant for the eyes of the gods. This scepter, found resting in a lesser-known chamber of the Valley of the Kings, was a masterpiece of ancient Egyptian artistry. For decades, scholars saw it as exactly that, a beautiful ceremonial object placed to accompany a ruler in the afterlife. Its catalog entry was simple, its purpose seemingly understood. But the truth was waiting in the weight of it, in a slight, almost imperceptible give when a curator's careful hand turned the jeweled pommel. With a soft click, the shaft separated, revealing a hollow core. Inside, protected for, was a papyrus scroll so tightly rolled it was no thicker than a reed. The text was not a prayer or a hymn. Written in a rushed, cryptic form of hieratic script, it was a cold, practical document. It outlined a clandestine agreement between this pharaoh and a rival kingdom. Their mutual problem was not an external enemy, but an internal one, a growing revolt led by their own powerful priesthoods. The public monuments from this era speak only of unity and the pharaoh's divine mandate. They show scenes of ritual and order. This hidden scroll tells the other side of the story, a story of fear and realpolitik. It details a plan to quietly share military support and resources to suppress the religious uprising, a fact deliberately erased from all official histories. Here was proof that even a ruler considered a living god had to engage in secret diplomacy, using the very emblem of his authority as a secure diplomatic pouch. The genius of the deception lies in its seamless design. The locking mechanism was not an added feature, it was integral to the scepter's aesthetic. The twist of the pommel felt like part of its assembly, a final ritual act to seal the king's power within. This was not a crude hidey-hole, it was a perfect marriage of art and subterfuge. The artifact forces us to reconsider the objects that filled these ancient spaces. If a pharaoh's scepter could hold a secret treaty, what truths might be woven into the very furniture of power, into the tables where advisors met, and the chests that held the kingdom's wealth while the pharaoh's scepter hid the secrets of gods? The inkwell of a Roman senator concealed the grubby mechanics of men. In the shadow of Mount Vesuvius, within a villa preserved by volcanic ash, lay a simple bronze inkwell. Its exterior was worn smooth from use, decorated only with a stylized feather, a common motif for a writer's tool. For centuries it sat in a museum collection, catalogued as a poignant reminder of daily life frozen in time. But its true purpose was far more calculated. A conservator examining a hairline crack applied slight pressure to that decorative feather. With a quiet metallic sigh, the base of the inkwell slid open, revealing a shallow, perfectly engineered compartment. Inside were several small wax tablets, their messages protected from the elements and from prying eyes. These were not shopping lists or love notes. They were the private ledger of a Roman senator, a man whose public speeches no doubt extolled duty, republic, and virtue. The wax recorded something else entirely: secret negotiations and precise bribes paid to sway votes against a proposed grain law intended to help the common citizen. The tablets name names and specify sums, a stark ledger of corruption written in the very medium meant for temporary notes. Here was political machinery stripped of its noble rhetoric. This artifact makes the corruption heartbreakingly personal. We are not reading a historian's summary, we are reading the man's own hand, his cold calculations etched into wax he never intended to survive. The genius of his concealment is its profound simplicity. In a villa filled with scrolls and documents, the last place one would look for evidence of treason was inside the tool used to create it. The inkwell was always in plain sight, resting on his desk as he received guests and plotted his next move. It embodies a ruthless principle that the most effective hiding place is not a deep vault, but an object so ordinary it becomes invisible. This practice of embedding secrets within architecture and daily life would only grow more elaborate, moving from the personal desk to the very walls meant to protect an empire. The Roman inkwell hid corruption in plain sight, but in the Forbidden City, secrets were woven into the very fabric of beauty. An exquisite black and red lacquer cabinet, commissioned by a powerful Ming Dynasty court eunuch, stands as a masterpiece of patience. Its surface depicts a serene, rolling landscape of misty mountains and winding rivers, a scene of perfect harmony. For generations, it was admired purely for its artistry, a symbol of refined taste. But its true purpose was far more calculated. A conservator, studying the piece under raking light, noticed something peculiar about the texture of the painted peaks. Pressing a specific sequence of these mountain ridges, a technique known as or secret decoration, triggered a nearly silent mechanism. From the side of the cabinet, a slender drawer, perfectly concealed within the paneling, slid open without a sound. Inside were not personal treasures, but political ones, meticulously reports written on fine silk paper. These dossiers contained detailed observations on the movements, finances, and suspected loyalties of regional military governors, information intended for the emperor's eyes only. This was not a piece of furniture, it was a secure intelligence terminal. The eunuch, operating within the labyrinthine court, used this beautiful object to compile and safeguard the very information that maintained the emperor's grip on a vast empire. Every brushstroke of the peaceful landscape served as both camouflage and key, weaponizing art for the cold business of state control. It prompts a chilling question: how many other gorgeous objects from history are not what they seem? If a cabinet could be a spy, then what secrets might a person carry not in a pocket, but on their very body, woven into the threads of their status and identity? The sacred was never safe from the schemer's hand. In the treasury of a great Byzantine cathedral, a gilded silver cross lay for centuries, its surface worn smooth by the kisses of the faithful. It was venerated as a reliquary, a vessel believed to hold a fragment of a saint, a direct conduit to the divine. Its central garnet glowed like a drop of holy blood. But that jewel was more than a symbol, it was a lock. A careful examination revealed the gem was set within a bezel that could be rotated with precise pressure. Behind it lay a hollow cavity, and within that space, not a sliver of bone, but a tiny square of parchment, folded so tightly it was no larger than a thumbnail. Unfurled with immense care, the text written in Minute Greek script was a spiritual betrayal. It was a signed oath of loyalty from a powerful general to the emperor, a solemn vow to use his troops to overthrow the emperor's own co-ruler in a planned palace coup. The document invoked the name of God as its witness, transforming a holy object into a container for treason. This was the ultimate perversion of trust, exploiting the profound, unquestioning faith of an entire population to mask a plot born of raw ambition. In an empire where church and state were inseparable, where the emperor was God's representative on earth, this act carried a unique blasphemy. The cross was not merely a hiding place, it was a guarantee of silence. Who would dare to defile a sacred relic to check its contents? The conspirators weaponized piety itself, counting on the reverence of others to shield their profane agreement. It forces us to look differently at all objects of devotion from this era. If a holy cross could hide a plot against a co-emperor, what other pacts were sealed under the cover of faith? In other cultures where spiritual authority and political power were forever entwined, the direction of prayer could also point the way to a silent arrest. In the bustling markets of Istanbul, a beautifully crafted Ottoman indicator was a common sight, a brass instrument of science and faith used by the devout to find the precise direction of Mecca. Its intricate engravings of zodiac signs and constellations spoke of a harmony between celestial navigation and religious duty. Yet for one trusted agent of the Sultan, this object served a far more terrestrial purpose. A scholar studying the device noticed the astrological symbols on its rotating dial were not merely decorative. When specific constellations were aligned in a non-astronomical sequence, a hidden catch released, and a slim compartment slid open from the instrument's weighted base. Inside, carefully preserved, were several tightly folded firmans, imperial decrees bearing the Sultan's seal. These were not public proclamations. They were confidential orders authorizing the discreet removal of certain Janissary officers from their posts, individuals within the elite military corps who had been deemed disloyal. The indicator was the perfect vessel for such dangerous documents. In a society defined by piety, a man frequently consulting this instrument would draw no suspicion. He was simply a devout Muslim, ensuring his prayers were correctly oriented. He could carry the Sultan's most lethal commands right under the noses of the very corps he might be tasked to investigate. This artifact represents a chilling fusion of spheres meant to be separate. It weaponized an object of religious devotion and scientific inquiry, turning a guide for spiritual connection into a tool for political purification. It whispers that in the eyes of the state, no domain was truly sacred if it could be made useful. If the tools of prayer could be co-opted for intrigue, then surely the most personal of all possessions, the items we carry closest to us, would become the next frontier for concealment. Her serene gaze from the portrait conveyed nothing but noble grace and unshakable loyalty. This 16th-century painting of an Italian noblewoman was a public monument to her family's status, its ornate gilded frame as much a declaration of power as the image itself. For centuries, it hung in a palazzo, admired for the artist's skill in capturing the delicate lace of her collar and the quiet dignity in her eyes. But the frame held a second masterpiece, one of deception. A conservator, while examining the work under a magnifier, noticed a hairline seam that did not follow the grain of the wood. Intrigued, they applied gentle pressure to a specific beautifully carved oak leaf in the frame's corner. With a soft, precise click, a small rectangular panel, perfectly disguised as part of the floral motif, slid backward. Behind the stretched canvas lay a shallow cavity, a secret space never meant for light. Within it were several letters, their seals broken but their contents preserved. The correspondence revealed a delicate and dangerous truth. While the noble family publicly pledged fealty to their home city-state, these hidden letters detailed a steady stream of secret financial support to a rival power. This was a direct violation of sworn treaties, a betrayal that, if discovered, would have meant ruin. The portrait, that ultimate symbol of public lineage and virtue, had been transformed into a safe for treachery. This artifact lays bare a brutal duality of the Renaissance. Art was not merely for beauty or status, it was infrastructure. The walls of power were not blank spaces, they were active participants in conspiracy, their gorgeous surfaces masking the fragile truths nailed right behind them. It forces a question about the nature of legacy itself. If a family's official portrait could hide evidence against them, then what other declarations of loyalty, carved in stone or woven into tapestries, were merely the public face of a private, calculated game? The desire to hide soon moved from the walls of the powerful to the very tools they used to navigate the world, embedding secrets into objects meant for daily use and long journeys. The weight of the silver was the first clue, a solid, reassuring heaviness against the hip that spoke of status and strength. This ornate belt buckle, excavated from a Scandinavian burial mound, belonged to a Viking chieftain, a man whose public identity was forged in raids and open halls. Yet its heft felt deliberate, beyond mere decoration. When researchers passed it through an X-ray, the machine unveiled its silent core. Within the thickest part of the cast silver, sealed away from air and eyes, was a hollow space. And inside that space lay a thin strip of bone, carefully engraved with sharp angular runes. This was no personal motto or memorial. The inscription was a list, a roll call of names belonging to other regional chieftains. Together they had formed a secret pact, a sworn alliance to oppose the centralizing efforts of a rising king who sought to consolidate power and diminish their traditional autonomy. To declare such opposition openly would have been an act of political suicide, likely sparking immediate conflict. So the agreement went underground, or more precisely, onto bone and into silver. The chieftain wore this ledger of loyalty every single day, the names of his allies resting literally against his body, a hidden counterweight to the public demands of the king he feigned to follow. This transforms a simple piece of clothing into a profound political statement. The belt buckle was more than an accessory. It was a secure, portable archive of rebellion, its contents known only through the press of metal against wool and skin. It speaks to a world where loyalty was fluid and volatile, where a man's public oath and private allegiance could be two entirely different things, separated only by the thickness of a silver wall. This practice of wearable secrets, of carrying fragile truths on one's person, reveals a universal human instinct. If a Viking could hide a pact in his belt, what other cultures embedded dangerous knowledge into the very items of daily dress? Turning the self into a walking vault, the vibrant colors on its surface told a story everyone was meant to see. A Mayan polychrome vase, unearthed from a noble's tomb, displayed a detailed ritual scene of offerings and gods, a public declaration of piety and power. For decades, scholars admired it as a fine example of ceramic art, its narrative frozen in glaze. But the true story was locked inside the clay itself. The vase felt unusually heavy, and its walls, when tapped, produced a dull, hollow sound distinct from a typical vessel. The secret was not mechanical but chemical. Researchers discovered that by filling the vase with a specific mildly acidic liquid brewed from local plants, a reaction would occur. A carefully formulated plug, made from a different clay composite and sealed within the double wall, would slowly dissolve. After several hours, a small interior panel would become loose, revealing a hidden chamber within the vase's thick base. This was not a lock picked by a key, but by knowledge. Inside this chemically sealed vault were several bark paper codices, remarkably preserved in the dry darkness. Their contents were not myths or calendars, but the cold, hard ledgers of statecraft. They detailed intricate tributary agreements with smaller, subservient villages, specifying exact amounts of cocoa beans, jade, and quetzal feathers owed. Even more striking were concise spy reports on the military movements and internal disputes of rival city-states, information that was pure political gold. This vase was not merely a container, it was a secure filing cabinet for intelligence, its beautiful exterior serving as the perfect camouflage for the ruthless calculations required to maintain regional dominance. The sophistication of the mechanism is what truly astounds. It reveals an advanced, applied understanding of materials science, a mastery over the very properties of clay and chemistry to create a timed-release secret. This artifact completely shatters the outdated notion that such elaborate political deception was solely an old-world phenomenon. It proves that the drive to conceal sensitive information and the ingenious methods to do so were a global constant in the human story. If a ceramic vase could hold such volatile secrets, what other truths might be permanently locked away within the seemingly solid stone monuments that still tower over the jungle, waiting for the right key, not of metal, but of knowledge, to be found? Its bronze reedy traced the heavens, a delicate web of star pointers designed to map the cosmos. This Persian astrolabe was a masterpiece of medieval science, an instrument of profound intellectual pursuit used by scholars to calculate time, chart stars, and navigate complex philosophical questions about humanity's place in the universe. Its very form celebrated enlightenment and the pursuit of pure knowledge. Yet in the hands of the Shah's spymaster, it became something else entirely. The secret was woven into the instrument's soul. The reedy, that intricate lacework of metal, was not merely a map, it was a lock. Only when its specific star pointers were carefully aligned to mirror the celestial arrangement on a particular politically significant date would a tiny internal latch disengage. With a soft metallic sigh, the main brass plate of the astrolabe could then be lifted away. Hidden in the space between this plate and the base was the truth the instrument was built to conceal, a slender silk scroll. Its contents were not astronomical observations. Written in a precise minute hand, it was a meticulously compiled list, naming courtiers, minor officials, and even distant relatives within the royal household who were under suspicion of dissent or disloyalty. This was the spymaster's private ledger, a roll call of potential threats to the throne. The perversion of the object's purpose is what resonates so deeply. An astrolabe represented the highest human aspiration, to understand the orderly, predictable movements of the heavens. It was a tool for finding your way by the fixed light of stars. Yet here, that same tool was repurposed to navigate the chaotic, treacherous shadows of human ambition. To access its contents required not a physical key, but a specific piece of intellectual knowledge, a celestial date that functioned as a password. This elevated concealment from simple craftsmanship to a form of high art, blending mechanical genius with scholarly insight. It presumed that only someone with both the technical skill to operate the device and the privileged knowledge of the correct date would ever unlock its secret. The astrolabe stands as a high-water mark of this dark craft, a chilling reminder that the tools we create to expand our minds can, with a twist, be used to contract our freedoms. It forces a question about the nature of knowledge itself. If an instrument of cosmic inquiry could be corrupted into a list of names for then what other vessels of wisdom, like the humble book, might have been engineered from the start to hide more than they revealed? The gilded pages of a prayer book promised a path to heaven, not a sentence for treason. This 14th century Book of Hours, commissioned for a noblewoman, was a common sight in any wealthy household, its delicate illuminations of saints and psalms a testament to both piety and status. Its daily use in private devotion made it an object of profound intimacy, handled with reverence. Yet its binding felt curiously heavy and thick in the hands of a modern book conservator. When the worn leather was carefully removed, the reason became clear. The wooden boards forming the covers were not solid. They had been masterfully hollowed out, their interiors carved into shallow cavities. Packed tightly within these secret spaces were several sheets of fine vellum, folded with precise, almost obsessive care. Unfolded, they revealed not prayers but peril. They were verbatim copies of intercepted correspondence between a powerful baron and a representative of a foreign crown. The letters discussed in cold detail the logistics of raising a rebel army, the promise of foreign gold, and the planned overthrow of their own king. This prayer book, an object meant to secure a soul's eternal rest, had been converted into a vault for intelligence that could send its owner to a very earthly and permanent end. The psychological duality here is staggering. The noblewoman, or perhaps a trusted agent in her household, would perform the daily rituals of faith, her fingers tracing the same covers that concealed evidence of a plot that would shatter the kingdom's peace. The sacred text offered spiritual armor, while its physical form provided literal armor for secrets that could ignite a war. This artifact crystallizes a medieval reality where the boundary between the divine and the profane was porous. No object, no matter how holy, was safe from being co-opted into the mortal games of power. It suggests a world where trust was so scarce that even the tools of personal salvation had to be scrutinized. If the book for the soul could hide such dangerous whispers, then what of the containers built for the body itself? The final vessels designed not for daily use, but for eternity. The final resting place became a vault for an unresolved argument. This Etruscan bronze funerary urn, a vessel of quiet dignity meant to honor a passing, held a secret far more contentious than sacred ash. Its design was deceptively simple, an ornate container with a lid resting on a sturdy base. But beneath the internal ceramic pot that held the physical remains, artisans had engineered a clever false bottom. It was not accessible from the outside, only revealed when the entire inner assembly was carefully, respectfully removed. In that hidden space, shielded by the very ashes of an ancestor, lay several thin sheets of lead, each meticulously inscribed with a sharp stylus. The text was not a eulogy or a prayer for the afterlife. It was a detailed family history, a genealogical record that told a story completely at odds with the public lineage the family presented to their community and rivals. This hidden chronicle laid claim to specific tracts of fertile land, territories currently held by a powerful neighboring clan. By sealing this document here, the family was not merely burying a loved one, they were interring a legal argument. They were preserving their political claim in the most secure archive imaginable, a tomb. This was a conflict put on pause, a grievance entrusted to eternity. The urn transformed a memorial into a time capsule of latent conflict, ensuring that their version of the truth, their rightful due, would survive even if the family itself faced hardship or displacement. It was a message to the future, waiting for a descendant or perhaps a sympathetic authority to discover it and resurrect their cause. This profound act shows how political ambition could truly transcend a lifetime, using the sacred duty of remembrance as a vehicle for a dispute that refused to die. But not all hidden documents were meant to wait for generations. Some were designed for immediate, tactical use in the most direct contests for power, concealed not in tombs, but in the very instruments of conquest carried onto the battlefield. The soul of the samurai was forged in steel and silence. A masterfully crafted iron tsuba, the of a katana, served a dual purpose far beyond protecting the warrior's hand. This particular guard, decorated with a delicate maple leaf motif, was more than art, it was a mechanism. The central leaf was not fixed, it could be rotated with precise pressure, acting as the dial on a combination lock. When turned to the correct, hidden alignment, a tiny catch released within the hilt's collar. From that space, a slender ivory cylinder, no wider than a reed, could be extracted. Inside this cylinder was a tightly rolled scroll of rice paper, its surface covered in minute meticulous script. The list it contained was a roll call of treason, naming several powerful daimyo, feudal lords, who had secretly pledged to oppose the authority of the ruling shogun. This transforms our understanding of the sword completely. The katana was not merely a weapon for honor or combat, it was, in this instance, a secure data storage device. The warrior who carried it bore the immense, hidden weight of political intelligence that could ignite a civil war the moment it was discovered. He was a walking archive. His loyalty to his lord tested every time his hand rested on the hilt that concealed the proof of a wider conspiracy. This artifact represents the ultimate personal burden, where the symbol of a man's public duty and personal honor became the vessel for his society's most dangerous deceptions. It forces a profound question. If the sword carried secrets, then where did daily domestic life, the supposed realm of safety and family, end and the world of political concealment begin? Could the very heart of the home also be engineered to keep a dangerous truth? The ceremonial toast was a public performance of unity, but the horn itself held the private script. In the high Caucasus Mountains, a grand Georgian drinking horn, carved from a single ox horn and banded with intricate silver, was the centerpiece of feasts meant to seal alliances between clans. Its shape was a command to celebrate, to share in the communal wine that symbolized trust and brotherhood. For generations, it passed from chieftain to chieftain, lifted high in rituals everyone could see. Yet its true power lay in a detail no one was meant to notice. The ornate silver base was not fixed, it was threaded. With a firm, deliberate twist, the entire base could be unscrewed, revealing the hollow stem of the horn itself. There, protected from the wine and the eyes of all but the sworn few, was a tightly rolled parchment. Unfurled, the document was stark and binding. It outlined a detailed blood oath and formal treaty between two rival clans, historic enemies who had publicly feuded for generations. Their secret agreement was to unite their warriors and resources against a common, far greater threat, an encroaching empire that sought to swallow their mountain homelands. The public toasts were theater, a necessary show for their own people to explain the sudden cessation of hostilities. The hidden parchment was the cold, legal machinery that made the performance real. This artifact masterfully illustrates a profound truth about political theater. The social ritual, the shared cup, the public declaration, these were the visible expressions of a deal already sealed in secret. The drinking horn was not just a symbol of the alliance, it was the literal container for its most sensitive terms, turning a vessel of fellowship into a case for conspiracy. It prompts us to look differently at all such rituals of community. How many historic toasts, handshakes, or public feasts were merely the elegant cover for a pragmatic, hidden contract? This blurring of the social and the secretive leads us to consider another vessel, one designed not for drink, but for the far more potent currency of ideas, where the act of preservation could easily twist into the art of deception. The polished sphere of the Enlightenment globe spun on its axis, a perfect model of an expanding world. In the library of a European statesman, this object was the ultimate symbol of reason and discovery, its surface charting coastlines and empires for all to see. Yet its true purpose was locked along the brass line of its equator. A discreet, nearly invisible latch allowed the entire northern hemisphere to be lifted away like the lid of a celestial box. Inside, pasted against the concave shell, was not empty space, but a second, secret map. This hidden chart depicted proposed borders for colonial territories in the Americas and Africa, lines drawn according to the terms of a clandestine treaty between rival powers. These borders were radically different from the ones proclaimed in public agreements and celebrated in official atlases. The public map spoke of exploration and enlightened stewardship. The hidden one detailed a cynical, premeditated division of foreign lands and peoples, a deal made in smoky rooms far from the shores being carved up. This globe, the very emblem of open knowledge and geographic truth, was engineered to conceal a foundational lie of the colonial era. It weaponized the ideal of discovery, turning a tool for education into a vault for realpolitik. The hypocrisy is breathtaking in its scale. Nations that presented themselves as bearers of civilization and law were, in their private chambers, using the symbol of the whole world to hide their true, grasping intentions. This grand, geographic deception forces a stark pivot. If the entire known world could be inside an object of learning, then where did the human body itself, the most intimate territory, end and the world of political secrets begin? Metal and leather gave a warrior back his stride, but its hollow core carried a final, bitter strike. Discovered in a Macedonian tomb, an ancient Greek prosthetic leg was a marvel of early medical engineering, crafted from bronze and fitted with leather straps to replace a limb lost in battle. To the archaeologists who found it, it was a poignant testament to human resilience, a story of a soldier determined to stand tall even after a terrible hardship. But the artifact held a darker purpose. The limb felt unnaturally heavy, and careful examination revealed its core was not solid. Sealed inside with a wax plug was a small, rolled lead curse tablet, accompanied by a fragile papyrus fragment. Unfurled, the texts did not speak of pain or loss. They were a calculated, posthumous attack. Written in the voice of the deceased soldier, the documents leveled a grave accusation against a rival general, charging him with both treason against their city-state and the practice of forbidden sorcery meant to sway the outcome of battles. This was not a private grievance, it was a weapon timed for maximum destruction. The soldier knew his own passing was inevitable. So he engineered his final act to be one of character assassination, embedding the damning evidence within the very object that symbolized his sacrifice. His plan relied on tomb robbers or future generations discovering the limb, breaking it open, and unleashing the scandal upon his rival long after both men were gone. The goal was to tarnish the general's legacy, strip his family of their political standing, and rewrite history from beyond the grave. This artifact represents political warfare at its most viciously personal. It transforms a tool of bodily restoration into a vessel for eternal vengeance, blurring any line between a soldier's personal honor and the political fortunes of his house. The prosthetic leg was no longer just a part of him. It was his final, silent agent in the living world's conflicts. Such a desperate act speaks to a climate where destroying a rival's name was as strategic as defeating him on the battlefield. And if a man could hide a curse in his own artificial limb, it reveals how the most intimate aspects of life, even one's physical form, could be conscripted into hidden wars. This practice of carrying secrets was not confined to the world of soldiers and statesmen. It extended into the domestic sphere, where the tools of daily life and creation became unexpected vaults for dangerous truths. Silk and whalebone shaped the acceptable silhouette of a lady, but they could also cage a secret. The rigid front panel of a corset, known as the busk, was a necessary instrument of fashion, a strip of wood or bone that enforced posture and propriety. For the wife of a Victorian diplomat, her busk was something far more. To the casual observer, it was simply a well-made piece, smooth and unremarkable. Yet its weight felt slightly off, and a keen-eyed maid, perhaps acting on a private instruction, discovered its truth. The busk was not a single piece, but two thin slats, expertly glued together along their edges. When carefully separated, they revealed not solid wood, but a hollow channel. Inside, pressed flat and preserved in the dark, were several strips of microfilm diplomatic cables. These were not social notes or household accounts. They were detailed records of her husband's secret negotiations concerning a volatile overseas crisis, talks that contradicted the government's public statements of neutrality. With no legal or social right to a political voice, entry to the meeting rooms where these fates were decided, this woman's very body became a secure conduit. The corset, that ultimate symbol of social restriction, was repurposed into a vessel of clandestine information. She armored herself each morning with the state's most fragile truths, carrying them through drawing rooms and past guards, her silence as enforced by society as her posture was by the garment itself. This artifact speaks to a profound and poignant reality. When official channels were closed to an entire segment of the population, political currents found other paths, flowing through the most intimate and unexpected vessels. It transforms our understanding of agency in a restricted world. Whether she was an unwilling courier pressed into service or a willing participant in her husband's work, her role was invisible, her contribution unacknowledged, and her method a breathtaking act of covert ingenuity. The body itself became the final frontier for concealment, a theme that extends beyond documents to the very substances that fueled empires, where the need for control created its own secret architectures. The label promised a cure for all manner of earthly ills. A simple Delftware apothecary jar, its blue and white glaze depicting a pastoral scene, was marked clearly for Terra, a famed medicinal clay trusted for centuries to purify the body. It sat on a shelf in a municipal archive, a quiet relic of public wellness, but its base felt suspiciously thick and heavy in a curator's hands. Careful work revealed the truth. The entire bottom third of the jar was a false compartment, sealed with a layer of matching ceramic. Inside this cavity, shielded from light and air, were not dried herbs or powdered clay, but several letters, each sealed with wax and folded with urgent precision. These were not medical notes. They were confidential reports from mid-level city officials, addressed to no one, perhaps because there was no one they could trust. The letters detailed escalating civil unrest, the siphoning of public funds meant for poor relief, and the names of corrupt officials who were turning a blind eye for their own gain. This was a diagnosis of a societal sickness, a warning too dangerous for any official ledger. A cautious, perhaps frightened, bureaucrat had chosen this vessel of public health to preserve a truth about the body politic. The symbolism is heartbreakingly direct. The jar meant to cure physical ailments became a tomb for warnings about a moral disease no medicine could treat. This artifact speaks to the profound isolation of the truth-teller in a crumbling system. When the official channels for reporting corruption are themselves corrupted, where does one turn? The answer was to hide the evidence in the last place anyone would look for it, within the very symbol of civic care and remedy. It was an act of preservation fueled by fear and a faint, desperate hope that someday, someone seeking a cure might just find the real illness first. This meticulous act of hiding the language of warning connects to a deeper, more ancient practice, the need to protect not just documents, but the very means of writing them, encoding secrets into the tools of creation themselves. A stone in the wall was more than a stone. During the careful restoration of a medieval castle, masons noticed one brick that sounded different, a hollow, dull note against the chisel. When it was carefully removed, they discovered its back had been expertly carved out, the cavity filled not with a scroll, but with a heavy leaden sheet. Etched onto its surface was no message, no treaty, no list of names. Instead, it held a complex grid of symbols and letters, a cipher key. This brick did not hide a secret, it hid the means to create and unlock all secrets. The castle's formidable walls, symbols of brute physical defense, were also integrated into a more subtle security system. The implication is staggering. Encoded political messages were so volatile that the very key to reading them required its own perfect hiding place, a meta-secret safeguarding all others. Historians now believe this key was used to encrypt the types of documents we have found concealed in inkwells, furniture, and swords, creating a two-layer system. The physical artifact hid the document, and the castle wall hid the means to understand it. This transforms our view of these structures. A castle was not just a fortress against armies, but a vault against betrayal, its very stones part of an information security protocol. This ancient practice of securing the key separately from the message is a cornerstone of modern cryptography, a direct through line from lead sheets in walls to digital encryption protocols today. It reveals a timeless truth, that the desire to protect the method of secrecy is as powerful as the desire to keep the secret itself. This final layer of concealment brings our journey to a close, not with a single artifact, but with a profound question about the legacy of these hidden truths and what they ultimately say about the nature of power itself. A hollow statue is indeed the first malware. The observation from cybersecurity expert Dr. cuts to the very core of our journey. These 20 artifacts are not merely historical curiosities. They are the direct, physical ancestors of the security protocols that silently govern our digital lives today. The principles they demonstrate are ancient, but their logic is timeless. Steganography, the art of hiding information in plain sight, did not begin with digital files embedded in image pixels. It began with a treaty rolled inside a scepter, a map pasted inside a globe. Mechanical obfuscation, using clever engineering to conceal access, did not start with biometric locks. It started with a rotating Astrolabe star chart and a prayer book with hollowed boards. And the use of trusted objects as carriers, a concept we now call a Trojan horse, was perfected by the Holy Cross that hid treason and the corset that smuggled state secrets. These were not just hiding places, they were sophisticated security systems built for a world of parchment and wax. Today's encrypted digital containers function on the same foundational idea as the Mayan vase with its chemically sealed plug. Both require a specific key, whether a plant-based solution or a cryptographic password, to unlock a protected truth. A modern digital dead drop, where information is left in an obscure online location for a specific person to retrieve, is the direct descendant of the cipher key bricked into a castle wall. The contest has simply shifted venue, from the physical realm to the virtual one. Yet the human drivers behind this endless game of hide and seek have not evolved at all. They are the same forces that pressed a Roman senator to hide his bribes in an inkwell, fear of exposure, raw ambition for power, and the profound need to control the narrative. Every one of these artifacts represents a moment where the official story was too fragile or too dangerous to be left in the open. Understanding ancient concealment does more than satisfy historical curiosity. It grants us a sobering clarity about our own time. We live in an age of firewalls and end-to-end encryption, but the fundamental struggle remains unchanged. It is still a battle between those who wish to hide information and those who are determined to find it, between the crafted narrative and the inconvenient truth. These artifacts are a powerful reminder that our drive to secure communication and to penetrate the security of others is woven into the fabric of human society. It is a contest that has shaped kingdoms and now shapes our global digital world, a silent war fought not with swords, but with seals, with ciphers, and with the endless, ingenious human capacity to build a secret into the very things we hold in our hands. The story of these artifacts is one of partial truths, of secrets selectively revealed. For every hollow scepter or false-bottomed urn we have uncovered, there must be countless others still waiting in silence. This simple fact opens a chasm of unanswered questions that echo through time. Did the owners of these objects ever truly intend for them to be found? Or were these compartments meant to be eternal graves for inconvenient facts, sealed away with a finality that even death could not guarantee? Perhaps some of these secrets were discovered in their own time, their revelations sparking the very political disasters they were meant to prevent or enable. A servant's curious hand, a rival's thorough search, a moment of carelessness, any of these could have turned a hidden safeguard into a catalyst for immediate conflict, a story lost because those it destroyed left no record. This uncertainty is what fuels modern discovery. Today, the quiet work of uncovering these secrets continues, not with hammers and chisels, but with beams of light and sound. Archaeology has entered a new era of seeing without touching. Non-invasive technologies like computed tomography scans and advanced three-dimensional imaging allow researchers to peer inside priceless artifacts as if they were made of glass. Museum storage rooms and display cases around the world are becoming sites of systematic investigation. A ceremonial chest, admired for generations as a solid block of carved ivory, passes through a scanner and reveals the ghostly outline of a void within. A marble bust, long thought to be a portrait of a philosopher, shows internal seams suggesting a sealed cavity in its base. Each scan is an act of profound potential, a chance to listen for the heartbeat of a hidden truth inside an object the world thought it knew completely. This ongoing detective work ensures the field of history remains vibrantly, wonderfully unfinished. It is a constant invitation to question the solidity of everything we encounter from the past. The ornate box is never just a box. The weighty statue is never merely stone. The beautifully bound book may hold more than words on its pages. Every artifact now carries with it a whisper of possibility, a question mark etched in the very atoms of its construction. The search for these hidden compartments is more than a technical pursuit. It is a philosophical stance. It acknowledges that the past was often a carefully curated performance, and that the most enduring truths were sometimes those deemed too dangerous for the stage. As scanning technologies grow ever more sensitive, the next click of a scanner, the next ghostly image on a screen, could rewrite a chapter we thought was closed forever, reminding us that history's final word is rarely ever spoken. From scepters to sword guards, we have journeyed through a hidden history written not on monuments, but inside them. These 20 artifacts reveal a universal truth. Political power has always depended on controlling information, and sometimes that meant literally locking it away inside art, utility, and even devotion. The secret compartments were more than clever tricks. They were physical manifestations of fear, ambition, and the fragile nature of truth in the corridors of power. Think of the Roman senator's Inkwell, a tool for writing public virtue that privately held the ledger of his bribes. Remember the Viking chieftain's belt buckle, a symbol of strength that carried the hidden names of his rebel allies. Each object represents a moment where the official story was too delicate or too dangerous to exist in the open air. They remind us that history is often a palimpsest, a manuscript where old writing has been scraped away to make room for the new narrative. The most important stories, the ones that explain why decisions were made and empires fell, were frequently concealed beneath the polished surface we were meant to see. These hidden layers are not accidents, they are the direct result of human choices made under pressure. As we reflect on these ancient secrets, it invites a quiet question about our own time. What truths does our era choose to hide, and in what vessels do we place them today? The methods have evolved from hollowed wood to encrypted data, but the fundamental impulse endures. The drive to secure a fragile truth, to protect a narrative, or to expose one, remains a powerful force shaping our world. If you found this exploration into the shadows of history compelling, subscribe for more journeys into the past's deepest mysteries. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What modern object do you think could hide a secret that would astonish future historians?